All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to finish up chapter 11, which we started last time. First off, thank you guys for being attentive and participating with our special guest last time. I think the class went pretty well, and he gave me some pretty good marks, so that was a good thing. It took your help to kind of get there. I needed y'all to participate and be in on it, so thank you for that. The first thing we're going to do, like I say, is finish chapter 11. Then I've got a video that I want to show you guys. And we're going to do probably start into chapter 12. Then I'll show you another one of your classmates' videos. But I was going to do this at the end, but we'll go ahead and just talk about this now. On the syllabus, there was a special event that we were going to try to plan and do as a group. And just with all the restrictions on gathering in groups and the university still being so, tight on all of that, we're going to scrap that. And what I'm going to do instead is give you guys a paper of some sort. I'll put it on Blackboard. It's not going to be like a research paper where you have to go and dig through a bunch of journals and things like that. I'm not looking to send you to the library for 6 days for it. I'm still trying to decide a topic. Once I figure out what I want y'all to tell me about, then I'll post that. That's what we're going to do instead. Believe me, it'll be easier than doing what we probably were going to do, because since nobody really had much when we were first talking about it, we do have some wheelchairs down in some adapted wheelchairs that are down in storage. And I had thought about maybe having you guys put together like a little wheelchair basketball tournament or something like that but I'm not sure what the parameters would be for that, for getting it all done. And we were kind of late to the game. So we're just going to scrap that. But people that are in here next time, that's probably what they'll be doing for their project. I think that would be a good idea if they don't come up with something better. So y'all are going to I told you that y'all would have another hypothetical case study like we did the first time, that I gave back to y'all with notes, where 3 of the pages were real easy. And everybody that did struggle on it, it was on the planning page where you were supposed to give me goals and objectives. Y'all with me on what I'm talking about? We're going to do another one of those. I will get that to you probably next Tuesday, and you'll have a week to get it done. Shouldn't be hard. So we're getting some more points added up in the course. We're going to also shoot on through as quick as we can and get through chapter 14 where we can get that second test in. The third test, we may not get all the way through this whole book, and if we don't, that's okay. I'm going to pick and choose what we hit that I feel like is the most important for you to be able to come out of this with something that you can use. And that's what I want, with you guys in here. That's what I'm looking for, is for you to actually leave the class with something that you can go out and use and put into practice. Some of you are interested in pursuing rec therapy. Some of you are looking at OT or PT. A lot of these same things they're parallel. You do a lot of these same things regardless of where you end up. So it's not, you're not wasting your time. I'll just put it that way. Let me mark my last couple that came in. I haven't mentioned this one, but I will share the screen to this because I want the ones that are not here to see this. Uh-oh. I don't know what. Let's try this again. Share the screen. Let's go here and share. So I added an assignment today. I don't know if y'all get a notification when that happens. But I did. It's not hard. It's something that will kind of like the video. It'll help you kind of get out of your box a little bit and reach out. And something that I want you guys to realize is important, regardless of whether it's recreation therapy or occupational therapy or physical therapy or athletic training or whatever you end up doing, networking and talking to people and meeting people is important. And some people don't really, some people are more extroverted than others and just walk up and talk to everybody. Some people are not necessarily that way. But I can tell you that I have the jobs that I had, including this one, an MRC job, my Oxford Park Commission job, and then ending up out here at the university, all came from networking. It's kind of that who you know thing, so it matters. I'm a testament to that from my standpoint. I've seen it. So this one will cause you guys to do a little research that will help the program. It will help students that are coming in further. Kelly may have seen this. I think you were in 473. I'm going to start doing this in every class right now because I want to build up as big of a internship site for people that are looking to do CTRS as possible. So what it is, need you to research and find 2 sites that provide therapeutic recreation services and have a CTRS. You should be able to like Google or whatever and find places, that provide therapeutic recreation. It may not say whether they employ a CTRS. If not, you may need to call the facility or send an email and see if they do or not, because the places need to have a CTRS on staff. That's important. Because people that are looking to get CTRS certification will have to do that under someone who has that certification. So for both of the sites, you've got it right there. Tell me the location of the facility. Now, I've already got on the list Oxford Treatment Center. It's right here. We know about that one. Try to think about like where you would like to go to do an internship. Like if you didn't have to worry about, it doesn't have to be right here and then, within 50 miles of here. It can be, I had a guy last semester give me one in Mexico. He was from Mexico originally, and he found a place in Mexico. Who knows? People may want to travel to do their internship. But think about where you would want to go, the type of setting where you would want to try out, because that's what an internship really is. The way I look at it and the way that you guys should think of it, it's kind of like your opportunity for a test drive if you take it seriously and do it right to see whether, hey, this is where I want to be, this is what I want to do. And a lot of times if you do a great job and they have an opening, it turns into an employment opportunity. So that's a plus too. So when you're looking for these places, think about that. Look for locations where you might be interested in being one day or something like that. But tell me where it is. Tell me what type of facility it is, like who they serve, whether it's for children, whether it's, geriatric, whether it's developmental disabilities, the size of the facility and how many patients they serve. It's probably going to be on their website, most all of this. If you see any interesting facts about the facility, you can use this, copy, paste it, and just fill it in on the thing for each one. And then I need you to confirm with the places whether or not they accept CTRS internships. Some of them may tell you, yes, we usually do, but right now with COVID, we've got that kind of on hold, and that's okay. You can still use that place. If they tell you, no, we don't do CTRS internships, then that one won't work, okay? So what I'm trying to do is build a bigger and bigger database list to kind of help students at least have a start at finding a good place to do an internship for recreation therapy. So once we do that, don't disregard this October 1st on here. I didn't notice that when I brought it over from another course. You can tell us. We might have a little time where we talk about the places you found. So be prepared to say, yeah, the 2 places I found were this and this, and tell me kind of these facts about it to the class. And it'll give us some good ideas of where everybody's looking. It's 50 points, pretty easy. 20 points each for these parts, the questions and finding the place, and 10 for just talking about it for a minute. That's pretty easy. So easy 50 points. It helps the program, and it helps anyone who's looking to do the CTRS certification. Okay? So that's the deal on that particular assignment. If I don't have your, I think some people think that their recreation therapy video assignment is uploaded, and it's not. I've basically contacted you if I don't have it. So I have it on here. Let me see. Let's fix that right now. April 5th. So I'll go up here. So on the calendar, I'm just trying to say when we want to talk about it. 6th. There you go. That should be easier to see and remember and keep track of. Y'all good on those assignments? Pretty easy. I'm not trying to give you anything that's going to kill you. And like I say, the paper is not going to be something where it's going to be a 100-point paper that I expect to be well-written, coherent, proofread, you know, that sort of thing. If you have sources, I need you to tell me where you found the stuff. But I'm far more interested in the content than exactly whether you've got your margins at 1.5, you know, like the ALA format or whatever, APA. I don't really care about the format as much as just don't try to cheat me by making your font 16 to get a 3-page paper if that's what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? Just write me a good paper and you will be fine. So I'll tell you the topic on that soon. When I post it, I'll make an announcement about it. I know y'all get sick of all my little announcements and emails, but I don't want to surprise students, so that's kind of my deal on that. So we'll stop sharing that screen and we'll jump on over to chapter 11 and let's finish that off. Let's go back to here where I can share. I'm getting better at this, but not as good as I had hoped by this point. All right, so if you remember in the last class, we were talking all about social skills and how they can be molded. We talked about the different groups that have issues with social skills, which was one of the main groups that you guys can think of that commonly have problems with this. Social skills. There you go. Individuals with autism are kind of, to me, the number one group that comes to mind. They don't like, a lot of times they don't like to be touched. They don't like people in their space. They don't like eye contact. So if you take eye contact out of the equation and feeling like they, don't want you talking to them, that is obviously a social skill, deficit for sure right there. Now, in that case, are we going to cure someone with autism and make them want to look somebody in the eye all the time? Absolutely not. But we can, through it's almost like, a systematic desensitization, like through some practice of short, intermittent training sessions, where you kind of make them interact a little bit, they will become at least more social with you as the one who's working with them, or the other people that are trying to do these things. They'll become more social. They're not going to be as social as someone who isn't on the autism spectrum, but they can show improvements. So we went through, if you look back, we were talking about, some different models. We talked about the Stevens model, and they were all kind of similar in how you are having to choose behaviors that you're wanting to address and actually focus on specific behaviors that are either where they're socially inadequate, like where they don't speak when spoken to, perhaps. They don't give eye contact. They don't pay attention when someone's talking. They invade personal space constantly. That's inappropriate socially as well. So we talked about all of those things, and you need to identify which one you're going to work on if you're trying to help someone improve. So it's by using, the best way to try to do that is to actually use some of these models that are put together that we went over in the last class. If you weren't here, you can watch that video if you have not, where we talked about them. But when you're designing a social skills instruction program, as it says here, you're going to choose, obviously you got to choose who you're working with, whether it needs to be an individual or whether it's going to be a group. Then you have to select the target behavior that you're going to try to work on that has to do with social skills. And believe me, in recreation therapy, unless you're working in a facility where, you don't have any mental deficits, or there's hardly a place I can think of that you could work where where you wouldn't have some social skills issues, that come into play. So don't think, even if you worked in a correctional facility, obviously there's going to be social issues there. If you worked with the military, you'd have people who have maybe PTSD and things like that. Children, obviously, they have social issues. Developmental disabilities, definitely. So just about wherever you ended up, it's going to be, this stuff will matter. So who are you going to work with? What is your target behavior? Like, is it invading personal space that you're going to work on, getting them to stay arm's length away when they're interacting with someone? So then you need to do a task analysis of, the behavior and kind of what it entails and what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. If they're interacting, but they're getting right up in people's face and talking super loud, they're interacting, that's good. But they're talking too loud and they're invading personal space. So then you choose that we're going to try to work on, interacting from a more appropriate distance. So at that point, once you've analyzed the task, which is kind of breaking it down into pieces, you have to assess whether that person has the skills to be able to effectively improve in this area. Same thing with anything that we try to teach, whether it's a game, an activity. If you were trying to teach somebody how to play golf, but they had extreme, they'd had a wreck or something, they had extreme damage to their both arms and very limited mobility. Like you would have, if you broke down the task analysis, teaching them golf would not be the option you would want to go with, because they literally probably could not make a golf swing. So not just in this social skills part, but anything that we work with our patients and our clients with, you kind of need to break it down and see that they can do all the component parts put together for it to come together and work. If they don't have the skills to the level that they need to be at, you need to select a teaching strategy, such as social modeling, where you may have a coworker or another client. You show them what you're looking for them to do. That is a great way to teach. You know, a lot of people seeing proper interaction will teach them a lot more than you sitting there and talking to them about it. Seeing that distance you're supposed to say. Like I say, a lot of times you can't say, well, you should probably stay at least 2 feet away. That may not mean anything to your clients, depending on educational level and such. You can also use social reinforcement, where, you know, if as they improve, you give them more attention, perhaps. You give them some sort of social interaction that they are good at, that they enjoy. Contingency contracting, we talked about that, where if you do a good job, you know, it's a contingency. If you do this, you will receive this. It's kind of like signing a contract, and for them to get their goodies or whatever it may be, if it's just a pat on the back, they have to fulfill their end. Demonstration, very much the same as social modeling, and then role playing, etc. That's the same to me as the modeling type thing. Now, you could bring them into a social situation. That's kind of where you bring them into a contrived situation and say, okay, now I want you to speak with me the way Tom did, from an appropriate distance, you know, where you role play and make them kind of do what they saw. Then step 6, you implement the teaching strategy, reassess where the person is on their skill achievement. Have you made progress? That, you know, that's something you need to remember is during our, you know, we talked about goals and objectives, and we make objectives measurable for what reason? Yes, we want to make them broken up into like stepwise pattern where they're making their way up toward reaching the goal. So they need to be measurable, so you can basically say, yes, they did it, or no, they didn't. You know, did they do this 4 out of 6 times? Were they effective at doing this 80% of the time? You know, that's what your, you know, criteria is that's the portion that's going to tell you whether or not they're effective with what they're doing. So you're constantly assessing to see through goals and objectives whether they're making the progress that's expected and hoped for. If they've mastered this and show that they're competent at it, then you can move on to another social skill. This is generalizable to you know, other things other than social skills. Really, if you look at this list, you need to do the same type things. You target what you're going to do. You see who you're going to work with. You break down the behavior to see if they can do it. Then you work on it and see whether it worked or not, and then you adjust. I mean, it's the same thing with almost everything we do. If you're using those models that we're talking about, that's basically what they're talking about here with these packaged social skills programs. You just got to make sure that the one you choose matches up with your target outcomes, what you're wanting to come out of it. Make sure that your client has the skills to do what you are trying to get them to do. That comes down to that task analysis. You want to look at the approach or method that's given in that model to see if it matches up with not just the client, but with some of them will be easier for you to feel like you can do on your end. So remember that. Make sure it fits your setting, and make sure that the logistics are there, that you have everything you need basically for it to work. Okay. Like, okay, talk about logistics, and let's talk about like COVID and how we're doing tons of stuff on like Zoom these days. Can you work on appropriate social distancing over Zoom? Really? I mean, you can talk about it, but can you really work on it? No, not so much. So that would be a situation where the logistics didn't pan out for you to work on that particular skill with a client. If you had to deal, have your interaction with them through Zoom, that's kind of a good example of that. So in therapeutic recreation, what we're looking for is improving their social skills in leisure contexts and in leisure environments. You can do social skills assessments and give them specific instructions as applied to therapeutic recreation programming. So, okay, in our programming, a lot of times, okay, let's just say Special Olympics. When I was in therapeutic recreation, that wasn't in my goals and objectives. Now in their individual program plan, I'd say I will have the client participate in Special Olympics each time it's available in the area. So it's listed, it's told to them and their family that they're going to be able to do Special Olympics. But let's say they go to Special Olympics and they do the 100-yard dash and they come in last and they throw an absolute crying, on the ground, kicking, hissy fit, push another runner down, pretty much flip out because they didn't win. Everybody wants to win, right? I mean, but is that the way we're supposed to act when we don't? Okay, so is that a social issue? Is that a social skill? That's something that we could work on that is related to something that we provide through therapeutic recreation. We take them to Special Olympics. They lose or don't get first place. They have a fit. We have to work on, at that point, learning how to congratulate others, how to lose gracefully, how to understand that winning isn't the whole reason we're there, things like that. So that's how it can tie in a lot of times. We play games. I'm as competitive as it gets, y'all. I don't like losing at checkers. I mean, I want to flip the board, but I don't. I'm just saying, I don't like losing either, but I know that I can't throw a fit every time I don't. Back to the kids. I always talk about my kids. My 4-year-old, I'm working with him on this right now too. If he doesn't win, this is the worst day ever. I'm never playing this again. Big giant fit. So we're working on the fact that, hey, but didn't you have fun while we were playing? Things like that. We want to make sure that they have social support. That they have areas, outside of just us, that they have some social support and that they know how to interact appropriately. So that's why the more appropriately a person acts, the more friends they're going to have, the more contacts they'll have, the more people will want to be around them. So we can help them through some of this training in the leisure area to become more appropriate and thus expand their social circle. You see what I'm saying with that? So we need to know that once we're done with them, or that they can be appropriate in a leisure setting, basically. They've shown that doing these methods that we talked about has improved cooperation and self-control in elementary school children, as you would expect. Like I say, that's the big thing that I hope for he's 5 now, actually. My 5-year-old starting kindergarten this year. He's never been around a bunch of kids. He hasn't been in a setting like this. He's going to have some issues at first with social skills, because he hasn't had a lot of practice with tons of kids and structure and things like that. But if they use some of these kind of strategies that we're talking about in an educational setting, that should improve. And I'll say thank you for helping during the day while he's not with me. Responsibility, assertiveness, cooperation, and self-control has improved in youth who have ADHD. Now, those are all things that can be issues in that population. Responsibility, kind of a big one, realizing that they need to be responsible, remember important items, things like that. Social skills training has been shown to be effective in youth who have emotional and behavior disorders. So even ones that you may look at and be like, whew, this one's beyond help. They're not necessarily. And you see improved play behavior with youth who have anger management issues. That's kind of along the way I was talking about, you know. You see them improve where they're not throwing a fit every time they don't win. Things like that. And then there's the summary. You can read that on your own like we've done before. Let's see. Let me check my list and make sure I'm covering what I wanted to cover. So we talked about the paper. I'm going to post it soon. You'll have a hypothetical case study next Tuesday. I will bring it to class. That new assignment we discussed about the internship sites. I don't want that to be a hard thing. I expect that to be relatively easy 50 points for you guys. Helps me a lot, helps the program a lot. It's a win-win, and it gives you some, you know, when it comes time for internships, I'm over the SRA internships, and people come to me and say, hey, I need an internship. Where do I need to go? And, you know, I'm like, what do you want to do? Is the first question I ask. You know, what do you really want to do when you get done? And they give me that answer, and I'm like, okay, well, go do some research and find some places that do that and make some contacts and see if you can do an internship there. I'm not going to tell you where to do an internship. Same thing with this CTRS deal. But I do want, because it's harder to find places that have a CTRS on staff and provide internships, I want to try to get as many places as we can to help people narrow it down at least a little bit, because it's a little tougher find, and y'all will help a lot by doing that assignment. And I gave you time. What was it, April 4th? Something like that. It's 5th, 6th, something. It's in April. So you got time to do that. Just don't forget and wait till the last day. That's easy to do. So now let's I'm going to pause the recording for just a second.